trailed by 17 points in the fourth quarter. They cut LA's lead to just 2 points, but it wouldn't be enough. Buffalo drops this one to the Rams with a final score of 44-42. Welcome into Bills Postgame Live. We're presented by Paramount Plus. He's Steve Tasker. I'm Maddy Glab. It was the most total points in an NFL game this season, but the slow start really impacted the Bills. Why?
Yeah, it also compounded itself when they got a block punt for a touchdown, so they lost points on defense. They had a real hard time getting a handle on what the Rams were doing offensively. And let me just tell you something. In a game like this, we saw maybe 4 once-in-a-lifetime catches from Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. Those guys are absolutely elite pass catchers and route runners. And Matt Stafford slings it as well as anybody. They showed it off tonight. This is the first time they've been healthy in a minute. The Rams are getting better. They were desperate. They really played well. You got to tip your hats to them, no question. They outplayed the Bills, particularly through the first 2.5 quarters, and then compound that with the special teams gaffe that gave them an extra touchdown, and all of a sudden the Bills are midway through the third quarter, 8 minutes to go, and they're down 17. You think, okay, you push back from the tables, they have had enough, and you think it's over. And then the Bills and Josh flexed to get back in it. Yeah,
at the start of the fourth quarter, they were down 17, and then Josh Allen started to put together drives using his arms, using his legs to give Buffalo a chance. Allen completely took over at the end of this game, willing his team into a position where they could find this victory. They could grab this victory. It wasn't enough, but Allen finishes with 6 total touchdowns. He's the first player ever to record 3 passing touchdowns and 3 receiving touchdowns in a game, continuing to etch his name in the record books. Several more records were broken by Allen against the Rams tonight. We'll get into more of those, but the quarterback is on the podium right now speaking to reporters, so let's get right over to that.
On the last time you got the ball at the goal line, was that was the call to go with the run because you guys ended up using a timeout there and might have cost you a chance to stop the clock at the end?
Yeah, I got to find a way to get in.
Did you change to that play at the line? But you put guy in motion to get behind it.
No. I try to run the call as best as I can. I got to find a way to get in the end zone.
How disappointing you scored 42 and don't think that's not enough today?
Again, hate losing. If you lose by 2, you lose by 100, it don't matter. You're still losing. And offensively, we got to find ways to score before the half and score after the half, so we didn't do our part either.
What was happening just sort of in the game when, did momentum shift at halftime for you guys? You seem to be clicking a little more second half.
Yeah, again, just trying to go out there and execute the play call to the best of our ability, and we didn't do that well enough tonight. I don't know the stats. I don't know how well we were on third down or how completion percentage, or I don't know any of that. I just know it wasn't good enough to win a football game.
Does it feel strange to be able to throw for 3 TDs and run for 3 and you still can't get the W from the offensive standpoint?
Got to make one more play than they do, however it may be. So again, there's a total team loss, 3 phases. We feel like we didn't play up to our standard. It starts with me.
Not getting in on the first sneak, though, and you had to waste the timeout. That put you guys in a bad spot. Would it have been better to maybe just spike it quickly and save the timeout?
Again, I couldn't tell you. It's in theory probably, but again, it's in the heat of the battle, and I got to find a way to get in the end zone.
Josh, what can you learn from a game like this?
Again, just way to battle. That's a good defensive front that we played. Again, I got to find more completions. Got to be better for our guys.
Was there anything they did from a defensive front that surprised you?
No, that's as good as a defensive front in the league that you'll see. They got a lot of high motors, and they play hard.
What does this next week tell you about a measuring stick now going against Detroit?
Yeah, they're the top dog in football right now. They're playing extremely well. So we got to have a good week and learn from this one, put it behind us. But that was a good team that we just played with a really good quarterback, and they played with urgency. At that point in the season, they're playing like they got to be in the playoffs right now, and you saw that and you felt that from them.
All losses are bad, but how severe could this one be since you could fall 2 games behind Kansas City for the top seed?
Again, we're just taking it one game at a time.
Josh, you said last week that having the division clinch could potentially allow you guys to play freer. Do you feel like that took longer to get to today than it needed to?
Maybe, maybe not. We got to come out with some urgency, though, and I don't think at any phase of the game did we do that today.
Why do you think that was missing today with that urgency?
We'll talk about it as a team and try to figure it out.
It's been a while since we talked to you after a loss earlier in the season. You were saying how sometimes an early loss you can pull so much from that. What can you pull from today when it's later in the season?
You know, like I alluded to earlier, just a playoff atmosphere, a team that's playing like they're in the playoffs right now. And just trying to learn from this and move on. I guess.
Hey Bills fans, Paramount Plus is your home to stream live local NFL on CBS games every Sunday all season long, right through the AFC Championship game. So sign up and sign into Paramount Plus today. All right, we just heard from Bills quarterback Josh Allen. A pretty strong remark there by our quarterback saying, I didn't think we came out with urgency in any phase of the game. The Bills went into halftime down by 10 points. It was 24-14 at that point. It was the most points they had allowed in a first half all season. In the beginning of the year, this was a team that was kind of known for some slow starts, both on offense and defensively, and known really for those second half adjustments coming out of the locker room with fire about them, with the spark, being able to come back. They came out of the locker room at the start of the third quarter, and on offense, they go 3 and out on that first drive. They end up scoring on that second drive of the third quarter, but Allen's saying there was no urgency in any facet of the game tonight. Where did you see that?
Yeah, you could see it in their inability to move the football and get first downs. Even the first drive where they scored, the second drive where they scored, it was kept alive by a personal foul, roughing the passer call. Otherwise, they would have had to punt it on that drive as well, but they managed to get out and get back on the field. They were like, at one point, they had converted like one third down in the first half or something like that. It was an incredibly slow start. Then the defense, as we saw, was really struggling to get a handle on what the Rams were doing. Now, certainly, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp flexed big time tonight. They used them in a big way, and I think those three guys, Matt Stafford, Nacua, and Kupp, you know, Nacua ends up with 12 for 162 and a touchdown. Kupp ends up with 5 for 92 and a touchdown. And Matt Stafford's 23 of 30 for 320 and 2 TDs. Those three guys really were the key. You see, there were like 3 or 4 catches in this game, 2 from Kupp, maybe 2 from Nacua, maybe 3 from Nacua, that were all-timers. And they got them all in one game. And, man, it was just something to see. That Matt Stafford really has so much confidence in those guys, and they came through for him. Kudos to those guys for hanging 44 points on this Bills defense. They started right out of the jump and forced the Bills really to put their foot on the gas. And that was, I think, Nacua, Kupp, and Stafford were the difference in this football game for the Rams. The defense for the Rams, yes, they did some good things. They didn't sack Josh Allen at all, and the Bills hung 42 on them. So you can say what you want about the Rams defense. The Bills torched it, but it took them a long time to get started.
Let's get into Buffalo's defense and their struggles against this Rams offense. Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, and Cooper Kupp. Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua finishes with 12 catches for 162 yards and a touchdown. He also adds a rushing touchdown onto that as well. Buffalo is known for playing zone defense. They do it 78% of the time. Nacua and the Rams offense were carving up Buffalo's zone defense. The Rams were using motion on a lot of the plays, and when you're using motion, it's a tell of what defense is Buffalo in. For most of the game, they played in zone. Puka was able to find those open zones for some big catches and moving the sticks down the field for the Rams. Why did Buffalo struggle in zone facing receivers like Nacua and Kupp?
Well, mostly because Matt Stafford is really good at dissecting and diagnosing exactly what coverage you're in. Certainly, and Nacua and Kupp are absolute masters at route running. They know how to get open and sit down in the zones. Plus, in man coverage, when the Bills did go to man, they got called on a lot of pass interference and defensive holding in the secondary tonight. And like I said, there were about 4 plays in this game that were all-timers that the Rams hung up there. And, you could see the frustration on the Bills' defenders. Just couldn't keep the ball out of their hands. A couple of passes defense, certainly one early by Benford was great, but Matt Stafford was absolutely money in this game, and the Bills' defense paid the price for it. Certainly the slow start. And also, I'll say this too, the running game early on really put the Bills on their heels. They couldn't get them off the field, although we know from watching them for 12 games before this, the Bills really don't, they'll give you yards in the run game for Christmas. They really don't care about that. It's getting you off on third down. At one point, the Rams were 10 of 11 on third down conversions. That was a recipe for disaster.
This is a defense in Buffalo that's known for allowing some yards as long as you get the team off the field on third down and get the team off the field once they get into the red zone. Buffalo's defense is a top 10 team in the red zone, and the Rams go ahead and score 44 points on a top 10 defense today. Going back to the zone coverage that Buffalo's defense likes to play in, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp have a greater passer rating than 97. Kupp is in the 100s. Puka Nacua is just over 97 passer rating against zone coverage since week 8. So this was going to be a big facet of the game. This was going to be a big storyline. It turned out to be, watching it through the full 4 quarters, is that Buffalo had to switch into man defense at a point in this game to see, hey, is this going to be an easier way to play these 2 receivers who are having an easy time against our zone coverage?
Right. And when Rasul Douglas had to leave the game, then the Bills were still forced to play some man coverage as well. And listen, you knew it was going to be a tough offense, a tough passing offense to get your mind around and to keep off the field. Those 2 wideouts are elite route runners, and I'll just keep saying it. That was the story of this game for me. LA's offense was the story of this game. The Bills' offense, they've been hanging 30 on everybody. You kind of figured they were going to put some points up. But the Rams' ability to stay on the field and dominate time of possession was really the key to their victory.
The Rams went into this game 6-6. The NFC West is completely up for grabs. So the Rams are still playing for a chance to win the NFC West. They've got a head coach in Sean McVay, who's known for being an offensive guru with his zone run schemes, with the way that he uses motion on offense. They have so many talented pieces on offense in running back Kyren Williams and the 2 wide receivers in Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. They hadn't put it together yet this season, but it was only a matter of time before an incredible coach who's won a Super Bowl in McVay and these pieces, as they started to get healthier, put it together. It's a game against Buffalo where they finally figure out, okay, we're going to go and score 44 points. They go into this game averaging just around 23 points per game.
Right. And this week, with this win, the Rams went from third in the division and 1 game back to second place in the division with this win tonight, because they're trailing just now. Now it's just the Seattle Seahawks. They're 8-5. The Rams 7-6, right behind them with 4 games to play. This game, it's right on the line for the Rams. They knew they were in a race, and with them getting healthier, like we knew they were, this is a time for them to shift gears, and they really showed it tonight.
We will hear from our head coach, Sean McDermott, in a little bit, but we're going to go to the locker room to hear from some more players.
It's tough. You know what I'm saying? We want to do our part, They did theirs, so we just got to, like I said, be better. You know what I'm saying?
It seemed like their emotions gave you guys a lot of problems.
Yeah, I mean, they did a good job with those, like, getting our eyes confused and stuff like that. They did a good job with that. But at the end of the day, we got to execute better, and we will do that.
Is Nacua about as good as you've seen this year?
Yeah, he's a very good player. Contested catches, and a strong player. Very good.
We talked about the slow starts a little bit. Was this a different type of slower start for you guys? I mean, it wasn't the same kind of thing where nothing happens. I mean, there was some success early, but it didn't seem like you guys had energy pretty deep in this game.
Yeah, we got to do a better job starting fast. I feel like previous games before that we did a good job starting fast, but today wasn't that for us. So just making sure that next time we come out, we bring more energy, more juice, and ready to play from the first play.
Is there an explanation for this one at least?
Not necessarily. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna watch the tape and see what we could have done better. And I feel like it's always different when we watch the tape versus being in it. So just making sure we correct ourselves and bounce back.
Well, not to go too much into details, but what was the conversation at halftime when it went out, when it started and it didn't go your way? What kind of adjustments did you try to make in the second half or do differently?
I would say we switched up how we played certain calls for our adjustments. We definitely did, and I feel like in the second half we did play better. But it wasn't enough, you know what I'm saying? We started off slow and didn't get no turnovers. I'd say that's a huge deal. And yeah, we just got to be better.
Taron, this is so uncharacteristic of the way your pass defense normally is. What was it like in the middle of that game? Did you feel like almost like as a group you couldn't catch your breath, you couldn't get it going the way you wanted to, or was it more scheme thing from them with the Rams?
I'd say a little bit of both. They have some good schemes, but at the same time, there's times we got to win and we didn't. There's times I got to win and I didn't. And yeah, just trying to make sure we tighten things up, get better, and watching the film.
What can you do to make sure this doesn't snowball? First loss in a long time.
I'd say just go back to the process. We talk about that quite often. Just going back to the process and not really blinking. You know what I'm saying? Like it's the NFL. You're not gonna win every game. So just making sure that we correct and get back to the process and that first.
Not that it had anything you're saying about the outcome, but they call a lot of pass interference calls on both teams today. Is it tough to play in that environment when there's flags going all the time on both teams?
For sure. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to play man-to-man when they're calling the game pretty tight. But at the end of the day, you just got to do your best and rely on your fundamentals. And if they call a flag, they call a flag.
What's the main thing?
Player Spotlight is presented by Microsoft Surface. Microsoft Surface is the official tablet and sideline technology of the Buffalo Bills. We are highlighting our wide receiver, Khalil Shakir. He had 5 receptions, 106 receiving yards, and 1 touchdown. It was his second game this season with at least 100 receiving yards. Steve, why is he worth shouting out in this one?
Well, a couple of the catches he made were right on time. Certainly the run after catch has always been part of his repertoire. This run, the 51-yarder he had that he turned into a touchdown, was absolutely stellar. He split the 2 defenders and then broke a tackle inside the 15 and got into the end zone. Right when the Bills needed, they were down 17, and he hits the big play for the touchdown right when he needed. You knew that the possessions were going to be precious to the teams, and he came through and made that one. Then later on, after they got 21-38, still down 17, he does the out and up. Josh hits him, and it looked like the safety was going to get it. Don't know how he caught this. It looked like a big collision. He was down at the 1. Josh got it into the end zone. After this, go 28-38, put him down by 10 late in the game. But his ability to catch at least all the ones that are reasonably catchable, and some of them that are unreasonably catchable. He makes all those. He had 6 catches, 5 catches on 8 targets, which is way below his percentage for 106 yards and the touchdown, long of 51. The plays he made, though, the long one down to get to the 1-yard line, and obviously the 51-yard touchdown came in the second half when the Bills absolutely couldn't afford to come off the field offensively. And he gave him a chance not only to get back in it, but maybe slim chance to win it.
It wasn't just Shakir who factored into this game and the comeback that Buffalo had in the second half. They struggled running the football, just 103 rushing yards out of this offense. So they lean on their passing game, 342 passing yards. Josh finishes with a 117 passer rating, and it was Shakir, it was Amari Cooper, it was Mac Hollins, who all played a part in Buffalo's comeback. I mean, Cooper had that huge 26-yard catch on 3rd down in the 3rd quarter on a scoring drive. Shakir had that 51-yard touchdown on 3rd down that gave Buffalo just cut the Rams' lead to 10 points. 31-21 was the score at that point. And then you have Mac Hollins, who has that 21-yard touchdown, I should say, in the corner of the end zone in the 4th quarter to cut LA's lead to just 3 points. All 3 of these players played a big part in Buffalo's comeback, and it was great to see a receiver like Cooper, who's been on this team just a month and a half, really play a big part. 6 catches for 95 yards is what Cooper finishes with. Joe Brady is trusting him. Josh Allen is trusting him. The playbook is opening up for a receiver like that. Those three receivers, they leaned on them, and rightfully so, because they had some big plays down the stretch.
And they had to, and the rushing, you say, well, they rushed for over 100 yards. Well, Josh had 82 of them, and 30 of them were on one play. Josh ran for 80 yards when they were throwing the football. So if you want to call those rushing yards, you can.
True.
They didn't run the ball. They ran the ball for like 20 yards on handoffs in this game. It was absolutely negligible. It was all Josh and his ability to get out of the pocket in the passing game and get rushing yards. That is the problem for me. That's probably the most concerning thing about this entire game is the fact the Bills wanted to run the football and they couldn't against a team that had been giving up the run game to other teams. They're going to have to figure that out, and we'll probably hear their answers to those questions when they face the media during this next week as they get ready for the Detroit Lions.
The Rams ranked 28th in the NFL heading into this one, allowing 144 rushing yards per game. Buffalo finishes with just over 100 rushing yards. Josh Allen had a big chunk of those rushing yards. Another lopsided factor and facet of this game is the time of possession. LA finishes with 38 minutes and 30 seconds. Buffalo just 21 minutes and 30 seconds. This was a game where time ran out for the Bills. Yes, they should have started faster, but if they would have controlled the clock a little bit more, given themselves some more time, maybe not just at the end of the game, but at spurts throughout this game, this could have been a different story for Buffalo. The offense wasn't on the field enough to win this one, obviously, because the score is 44-42.
Right, and you look at the halftime stats, and it was rough.
It was 20-10.
It was 20-10.
Time of possession.
And the Bills were one of 6 on third down conversions. They could not stay on the field on third down. They ended the game. Not that bad. I mean, on
over
third
50%.
down, right? They were. I'll say when they moved the football, they were 5 of 9 on third down at the end of the game, and 3 of 3 in the red zone, 3 of 3 in goal to go situations. They ended up looking pretty good.
Righting some of
but
those
man,
wrongs.
oh man, it was a horrible first half for the Bills offense and for the Bills defense as well. And you kind of figured they'd get it together, and they did a little bit in the second half. They gave up fewer points as a defense in the second half, but that wasn't like they shut them down by any stretch of the imagination. They still gave up 22 points. So it was a rough day for this offense when they finally got out of the gate. They looked good. They hung 42 points on the Rams, but it was too little too late, and they ran out of possession. This is exactly the kind of game that Buffalo has been winning. Although not to this, they haven't been scoring 86 points in these games between the two teams. But this is kind of that feel where the Rams reversed it on the Bills, knowing their offense was clicking, and they could put together long, sustained drives, and then get the Bills off the field and put them in desperate situations offensively, and let their defensive front eat in the passing game. Josh was hurried a little bit. They couldn't run the football on him. Yeah, this was a turnabout kind of game for the Buffalo Bills. This is exactly the way they've been winning games, even by a wider margin than the Rams were able to do tonight.
It's games like this where Buffalo is going to head into the playoffs and face these good teams, face teams that have had winning seasons, face teams that are top 10 on offense and defense, and the Rams have ranked top 10 in certain areas on offense and defense this season. Where can you make light of this loss in the fact that Buffalo was tested a little bit in this game? How can that help them moving forward as they start to prepare for January football?
Well, I'll tell you this: they should. We've thought it, and even without Keon Coleman and without Dalton Kincaid in the lineup, 2 more weapons that they didn't have in this game, they hung 42 points on that team over there, and they did most of it in the second half. They scored 30 second half points.
That's pretty crazy.
They were on it. I mean, they really put the foot to the metal, put their foot on the gas, and went. Josh had 6 touchdowns tonight, 3 rushing, 3 passings. The only player in NFL history to ever do it. We saw it tonight. That's how big this offense's engine is. So when they crank it up, yeah, they can hang 60 points on people because if they can score 30 and a half. This Rams defense is no laugher. And the fact that they had a run defense tonight makes them even more formidable because they've got a really good pass defense. So yeah, the polish on this game and the thing you can take from it and feel good about going forward is this offense. When they get Keon Coleman back, when they get Dalton Kincaid back, they're going to be even more difficult to hold off the scoreboard than they were tonight when they hung 42 points on LA Rams. Defensively, I think it took 3 elite offensive performances tonight from the Rams to get it done. It was Matt Stafford, Puka Nacua, and Cooper Kupp.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys were absolutely off the charts tonight, and then everybody else is kind of filled in around them. What an engine the Rams have offensively as well.
Josh Allen deserves a shout out in this game. He was the reason why Buffalo had a chance in the second half. At the end of the third quarter, when Buffalo was down by 17, Allen had that 20-yard scramble, which ended up in a rushing touchdown by Allen to bring it to within 10, 38-28. Then on the next drive, as they go into the fourth quarter, Allen has a 30-yard scramble. Then he has that 21-yard pass over to Hollins in the corner of the end zone for a touchdown, bringing it to within 3 points. He gave the team a chance at the end of the game. His legs made such a difference in this game, and throughout the entire season, if you cut the season in half, the first half of the season, Allen really wasn't using his legs. He wasn't going to the ground as much as we had seen him in prior seasons because they didn't need him to at that point. Last season and now this season, we've seen a quarterback who has turned it on in the second half of the season. When the games are on the line, he goes to his legs, he goes to the parts of his game that make him an MVP-style quarterback, and we saw that in several points at the end of this game. It wasn't just one play that Allen had. He had like 5 MVP-caliber plays that made the Bills have a chance to win this one.
Yeah, this kind of game, and we've seen it. I mean, you never want to be in these games. You'd rather have him sitting on the sideline in a baseball cap with 8 minutes to go,
Right.
up by 20, right? But these are the kind of games where you prove it's no fluke. Josh did that tonight in a game, in a desperation game when they made it. They ran up against a team that was smoking hot offensively when their defense couldn't churn out a turnover like they had done so often before. In a game on the road, out of conference, out of division, across the country, you needed somebody to pick up, somebody to show up and do something big. Josh Allen had an enormous game. It was by far, in a way, his best game of the year. And it happened in a loss when they were trying to get back in it, and that guy didn't flinch. It was an absolutely monster performance by Josh Allen in a loss. He'll tell you he'd give up the numbers for the win, obviously, but man, oh man, that's why the guy's in the conversation every year for MVP. That's why sometimes he's the only guy other than Lamar Jackson to get a vote. That's why he is Josh Allen. He's an elite quarterback, and he is at the height of his abilities right now. The guy scored 6 touchdowns tonight, 3 throwing, 3 rushing. And I don't care that you may say, hey, there were 1-yard rushes. Nobody else is doing that. Not 6 times. The guy's elite. He's an absolute monster. He showed it tonight in a game where they needed him so much just to give him a chance. He gave them that chance, and they couldn't finish it off. You can't say enough about what Josh did tonight. This is the kind of game that unfortunately gets swept away because they lose. Let me tell you something. The Rams are looking at themselves in the locker room tonight going, dude, did you see that guy? The Rams have no lack of respect for number 17 of the Bills. They know he's QB1.
That's the quarterback you want on your team when the game is on the line with a few minutes to go, because he's the type of quarterback who's going to give it his all and give you a chance to finish the game with a victory. Allen finishes with a few franchise records, NFL records after this game. He now has the most 300-yard passing games in Bills history. He passes Jim Kelly, Hall of Fame quarterback for the Bills, who had 29. Allen now has 30. This was also Allen's 5th game of his career where he has at least 2 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns. That's now the most in NFL history. He passes Hall of Fame quarterback Steve Young, who had 4. And he's the first player now with 3 rushing touchdowns and 3 passing touchdowns in a single game. All right, we've got more players on the podium. Linebacker Terrel Bernard is on deck, so let's hear what he had to say after this tough loss.
Qualified as a pretty uncharacteristic day for your defense, would you say?
Yeah, obviously not good enough. Didn't play to our standard. Didn't feel like we had the urgency starting out. Didn't play well enough to win at all, obviously. We feel like the offense.
To qualify as a pretty uncharacteristic day for your defense, would you say?
Yeah, obviously not good enough. Didn't play to our standard. Didn't feel like we had the urgency starting out. Didn't play well enough to win at all, obviously. We feel like the offense kept us in the game the whole way through, gave us an opportunity, and we just couldn't get it done. So we'll go back, look at it, watch the tape, learn from it, and get better and move on.
This is one of those days that we rarely see receivers as open as their guys were today. They just had guys open all day. What were you guys diagnosing during the game that was going wrong?
Yeah, I think it was a mix. We were in man early on. Gave up some plays. Pass rush wasn't getting there. Rushing coverage not working together. Then moved to zone. I think they did a good job, man. They did a good job manipulating us in our zone coverages and finding soft spots. But at the end of the day, we got to work together. We got to cover long enough for the pass rush to get there. The pass rush has to get there, and we got to do what we got to do in the back end to allow them to get there. So all around, just not good enough.
Not enough urgency, you said earlier in the game. What does that mean? And how'd you try and fix that?
Yeah, I think just coming out and being detailed, understanding what it was going to take to win this game. I feel like we had an idea of what this game was going to be coming in, and they came out and played better football than us. We didn't do what we had worked on all week throughout the week in practice. In the run game, taking the pass game away, affecting the quarterback. We didn't do that at all. So it wasn't up to our standard. And like I said, we'll learn from it, watch the tape, come back, and get better from it.
When you said that, meaning that you had an feeling this was going to be a game like this, do you mean you thought it was going to be a shootout with these guys?
No, I wouldn't say that. I'm saying a physical game up front. They were able to run the ball on us, which. We pride ourselves in not letting teams just run the ball on us, like every defense. Not being able to stop the run early, I think, contributed to, what we had to do in the back end and open up some of the stuff in the passing game as well. So I think really from the start, man, just not being able to do what we came in planning to do, which, stop the run, affect the quarterback, take the ball away. And we didn't do that at all. So all around, just not good enough.
But there's certainly been games where you...
Hey Bills fans, Paramount Plus is your home to stream live local NFL on CBS games every Sunday all season long, right through the AFC Championship game. So sign up and sign into Paramount Plus today. That was linebacker Terrel Bernard, who we just heard from. He talked about in practices, practicing to stop LA in the passing game and forcing them to run the football. He said, we did not do what we practiced throughout the entire week, and our rush and coverage was not working together. You saw that from the beginning of this game. Kyren Williams in the first half was having an easy time running the football on Buffalo's defensive line, so that kind of affected, I think, Buffalo's plan from the start. And the Rams then started to go to the air in addition to continue to pound that ground game because Williams finishes with 2 rushing touchdowns. How did you see the Russian coverage not work together on Buffalo's defense?
Well, certainly you can't give them, the ability to run the football and as well as they did in a game where they can also throw it. And their offense early on, now they got away from it later as Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp started to flex, and the Bills defense did a much better job in the run game. But they, you want to see it earlier, right? Getting first downs with the running game was never a good sign for your defense. That first drive, 70 yards, 8 minutes, went down for a touchdown, and it looked all too easy. And that was the story of the first half. Their ability to hang onto the football with the run game, with the passing game, stay on the field, converted a couple of third downs, and like I said, they were 10 of 11 at one point, or 9 of 10 on third down at one point. I mean, that's catastrophic defensively. I mean, you couldn't get even a drop pass somewhere. I mean, you couldn't get anything. There was no pressure on Matt Stafford. He seemed to have all the time he needed. But the ball did come out on time. I'll say that as well. It wasn't like they got any help from the secondary of making him pat the football too much. When he did get delayed later in the game, he scrambled a little bit, moved around the pocket, still found some receivers. This was a Ram offense you can't say enough good things about tonight. They played extremely well. And the Bills' defense was up against it, and they just couldn't hold up. They hung up, I think, it was 37 points they gave up to the Rams' offense. And, that's, even they'll tell you, that's just not good enough.
The Rams offense entered this game as the third worst offense on third down, converting third downs only 32.6% of the time. Matthew Stafford, also one of the worst quarterbacks on third down, completing third down conversions just 43.8% of the time and having a 62 passer rating on third down. The Rams finish with over a 70% conversion rate on third down in this one. 11 of 15 is what they convert. Why did they do such a good job of converting on third downs?
Well, first of all, it was 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 1. Here's a 3rd and 2 that we're looking at right now, 3rd and 3, and they did it with the run game. That's one reason. This right here, a 3rd and 10, one of those 4 plays, I'm telling you, the all-timers. I mean, Puka Nacua jumps backwards and catches it over the top of his head. They did it with the run game here on the outside and getting it in for the end zone. They mixed it up. They didn't depend on one thing on third down because usually it was third and manageable. And when it wasn't, you were getting great routes and catches from Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. Those two guys were awesome in this game. And all it really takes to change a game is maybe 2 or 3 of those third downs to be dropped or incompletions, and you get the ball back. Not so. Couldn't get it done. And they continued to make. I mean, we heard Tom Brady and Kevin Burkhalter just going crazy over the catches that Puka Nacua and Kupp were making. And I get it, but man, oh man, I was like, how many of those do they get, right? That's the kind of game it was for the Rams.
I mean, Nacua had that toe drag catch.
It was a phenomenal catch.
He had some other crazy catches. It wasn't like every single catch that Nacua had, he was wide open and it was for 20 yards, throw me the football,
Right.
I'll grab it. There were a lot of balls that Nacua had to go up for. Matthew Stafford did a great job of placing those away from Buffalo's defenders, but Nacua also had to show his athleticism a lot in this game.
It wasn't as though the coverage was non-existent.
True.
And so it's just one of those things that the pass rush didn't give him any help.
And that's the thing. How does the pass rush affect it? Because people can point their fingers and say, oh, our cornerbacks and our nickelback didn't do a good enough job in this game. But it happens all together. If the pass rush does a little bit better, then maybe Benford and Douglas and Johnson go out and get a pick or force a fumble. It's the group working together as a whole.
And I'll say this too, as good as the Rams played on both sides of the ball tonight, well, defensively maybe they got away from them at the end because the Bills hung 42 on them, but as good as the Rams played tonight, this is one of those games where if the Bills play to their form and get them to cough up or get a tipped interception, this game goes a different way. But they didn't do that tonight. And when you've got a team that has been thriving on turnovers and you don't get them, it's noticeable in its absence. That's how big the turnovers have been in all of their wins, and that's how much you feel them in their absence. 0 turnovers by either team tonight, no fumbles lost, no interceptions gotten by either team, and that's the kind of you get a 42-44 game against 2 good quarterbacks like this with a lot of weapons. That's the way it looks in the NFL these days when you don't turn it over and you play well and you convert on third down the way the Rams did tonight. So, and you've got a guy like Josh Allen at quarterback for the Bills, even when you're not converting third downs. The Bills were missing some turnovers tonight. The block punt for a TD was catastrophic. it turns into a 2-point game, and you're fighting for your life at the end of it. And it really, and I'll say this, it ended up being a 2-point game, but when you're trying to get down to an onside kick, it's astronomical, the chances of doing it. It just doesn't happen. So this game was over early in one way. The Bills were down 17, I think, twice in the second half. Yeah. And that's all it takes. I mean, that's hard to come back from. They almost did, but they didn't.
Buffalo's offense and this team as a whole, first in the NFL, plus 17 turnover margin. Buffalo's defense had forced a takeaway in every single game this season until this game against the Rams. This defense has been known for being a splash play type of defense all season, being able to force turnovers, grab the ball, and give it back to Buffalo's offense, who's done a great job of taking care of the football. Allen's interception numbers totally down this season. He's also done a great job, and the offensive line has, of not allowing sacks. Heading into this game, ranked first in the NFL, allowing the least amount of sacks. They've been doing a great job on both sides of the football, forcing takeaways and taking care of the football. Is this a defense who, at the end of the season, as you're finishing out the regular season, heading into the playoffs, do they need to learn how to exist as a defense who maybe sometimes can't force that takeaway and figure out how can we win even when we don't take away the football?
No, I don't think that's not your mindset as a defense. Your mindset is the next play always, and it's always about executing the defense that is called. And certainly you keep your antenna up between the whistles for opportunities to tip a pass, catch a pass, force a fumble, recover a fumble. That's always the kind of attitude that they have. You can't plan on the big picture. You plan on the next play. So they've got to keep it small. And I'll say this too, they shouldn't waver from their plan now. Just a bad game like this, where they gave up more points tonight than they have in maybe 3 games at other points of the season. It's not time to waver from that plan or from their preparation or from their philosophy. They'll tell you they just didn't execute well enough tonight, and certainly they ran into a really good offense that was going to make some plays on them. And everybody does. You're going to go in, you play the Miami Dolphins, they're going to make some plays on you. They got too many good players. Rams are the same way, and some other teams are going to do that to you as well. But you got to find a way to overcome that and make a play of your own. And I think that's the thing that was missing tonight. The Bills on defense didn't have one of those plays where somebody did something special. They didn't get a sack on a third down. They didn't get a tipped knockdown pass when they really needed it. They didn't get an incomplete pass or a pass defense to get the Rams off the field. Those kind of things are where a defense shows how well it can play. Tonight, if the Rams didn't make a mistake, it looked like nothing was going to stop them. The Bills needed somebody, a defender, somewhere, somehow, to make a play, and they just never did.
Yeah. Looking at this game as a whole, the Rams averaged 6.3 yards per play. Buffalo's defense got a little bit healthier in this game because defensive tackle Dwayne Carter, the rookie, returned to the lineup after missing several games, being on injured reserve with a wrist injury. Another defensive lineman who could come back and have his practice window opened in this upcoming week is defensive end Dwan Smoot. This was his 4th game that he missed, also with a wrist injury. So you could see Buffalo getting another defensive lineman back in the lineup soon enough. This is a defense who's top 10 in several different categories. They're 6th, allowing just 18.7 points per game. All of this is going into this game against the Rams. 2nd with 24 takeaways. 8th in the red zone, allowing touchdowns just 50% of the time. This is a game where this defense, when you look at the stats, it doesn't seem like what we've seen all season. Are you comfortable with calling this one just an outlier? This was a game where Buffalo's defense didn't play for all 4 quarters how we're used to seeing them play throughout the season.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. Yes, you're right. We're used to seeing somebody step up and do something. Step up and make a play. This year they played good. They didn't play great. They played steady. They never caught a break. Certainly, they got a lot of flags thrown on them in the secondary when they went to man coverage, and they had some things go against them. And they had Kupp and Nakua playing lights out, making some phenomenal catches. Other teams don't have those guys that can make those kind of catches or quarterbacks that can make the throws that Stafford was. And I'll say this too, it might be in some ways encouraging to see an offense have to play like the Rams did tonight in order to do this to the Bills.
I mean, everything is going to have to work in the opponent's favor to beat a team like Buffalo. This is what we're seeing is Buffalo still almost had a chance at the end of the game to win it. It came down to a couple plays. You don't want it to come down to 2 plays at the end of the game. You want to be winning throughout the entire game, but the Rams pretty much they allowed 42 points, but on offense, everything went in their favor.
Yeah, how hard do the Bills look to beat? You know, they look really difficult to beat. You got a Rams team 42 points on a team that was churning out 17 turnovers coming into this, with a pass rush that was getting sacks. That you know, it was a really good football team coming in, and it looked like the Rams. Well, they were up 17 in the second half twice, and they were sweating it at the end. The Bills look like the monster in the movies that you just can't kill. You know, you can't beat them. That's how good this team's playing. Certainly a loss is tough to take. And certainly, everybody in Western New York here is cheering for the Chargers to beat the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. But man, oh man, if you want to be encouraged by this, think of the effort that the Rams had to put forth to beat the Bills by 2 and score 44 points in the process. Their offense didn't beat the Bills. Their offense and their special teams beat the Bills.
Yes.
Man, oh man. If you're gonna put that kind of effort, maybe Detroit can do that. They're a good football team. They're gonna look at this film and go, man, what do you got to do? So I like the Bills coming off a loss, going to Detroit after a loss that's kind of a hard pill to swallow. Getting a slow start, looking flat, to be kind, in the first half of this game. This next week will be, this will be a gut check for them.
10 of 13 of LA's games this season have been decided by a single score. We're awaiting our head coach, Sean McDermott. Before we get to Coach McDermott, we're going to go back into the locker room to hear from running back Taron Johnson.
Points, you might end up in a game that's a shootout.
Man, put your foot on the gas and keep going. I mean, that's just what it is at the end of the day. Just, you saw it out there. Just put your foot on the gas and be undeniable. You saw Joshua's thing and get us points.
That play was the longest of your career. Did you know right when you caught it that it had a chance to go?
I saw number 8 verse. I saw him step outside and he went inside. So I was like, oh, we got him. And I was like, oh yeah, we about to get right because their DBs didn't want to tackle. So I knew if we got guys on the perimeter that it was going to be a big play at least.
Well, in a loss today, Josh had 6 total touchdowns. Just his performance today from your perspective, what stood out?
He's my dog, for real. It's in him, you know what I'm saying? You can't make that up. You see that hunger to keep making plays and put points on the board. It's a spectacle to see, and I'm glad to be his teammate.
Appreciate it.
All right, that was running back Taron Johnson, who had a touchdown of his own. He's been fun to watch this season. He's had some big-time plays for this team. This running back room as a whole, I know James Cook only finishes with 20 rushing yards, averages 3.3 yards per carry on the ground, which is not what we're used to seeing this season from Cook because he's had such a big volume of carries and touchdowns for this offense. But you look at the three as a whole, what they've given to this offense this season, this has been a trio who adds to the offense in different ways. I mean, Taron Johnson is somebody who can be used in the receiving game, used on the ground. They move him around sometimes too. Ray Davis is a bruiser on the ground. James Cook has added just an aggressive nature to the way he plays the game this season. It's been fun to see these three work together in different ways to achieve the goals that this offense wants.
I'm sure that there's a ton of Bills fans out there that Taron Johnson is their new favorite player because the Bills threw a screen pass and that actually worked. I mean, we haven't thrown a screen pass. We've been, in our daily show, and you've been a part of it too, Maddy, where we have callers and we've seen it. The Bills haven't thrown a successful screen in a decade, it feels like. And they got 2 or 3 tonight. One, this one got it down inside the 5, and then another one went over 40 yards for a touchdown. It was it was a thing of beauty, and we just haven't seen it very much. So it was nice to see, and you're right, Ty Johnson showed up big time, got great blocking down the field. This was a really good shot here when the Bills scored that and went up down 17-14. And that was it's a big moment. But you're right, Maddy, I'm with you. I like the stable of running backs the Bills put on the field a lot. James Cook, Ty Johnson, Ray Davis, fantastic job tonight. And I'm looking forward to bigger and better things for him. That screen pass, though, the text loops were going crazy tonight because when they threw the screen pass the first time, it got inside the 5. It's like, it's awesome. And then they threw another one for a touchdown. Sensational. And that's nice to have in your, you've got at least that tool in your toolbox that you can go to again.
All right, let's flip it to what's ahead for Buffalo. They've got a game coming up against the Detroit Lions in Detroit, 4:25 game. So Buffalo's second game in a row in the 4 o'clock window, second away game in a row too. The Lions are coming off of 2 wins that were decided by just a few points. In week 13, I should say, the Lions beat the Bears 23-20. Then in week 14, on Thursday Night Football, they already played, they beat the Packers 34-31. This Lions team, they're great on both sides of the football. They have an awesome defense who can get after the quarterback, have some great pieces on the back end too, and then they also have so many different weapons on offense. They have that 2-headed running back attack that can just get after it, what seems like anybody's defense. How do you think these two match up?
Well, a little bit like the Bills-Rams, I think. The 2 great offenses, 2 really great offenses, and 2 teams that are tough and tenacious defensively. This is going to be a great game. An absolutely fantastic game. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. I can't wait. The anticipation for these 2 teams is going to be touted as 2 teams who could definitely be in the Super Bowl due to what we've seen all season from both of them. Some incredible records. Detroit Lions sitting 12-1 on the season. The Bills 10-3 on the season. Our head coach, Sean McDermott, is on the podium answering some questions right now. So let's get right over to Coach McDermott.
Okay, I don't have any updates on the injuries here for you. Just in terms of the game, credit to the Rams. They did a great job controlling the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. As you could tell, defensively, special teams, neither were good enough to help us win this game. And I thought offensively, certainly scored a lot of points, moved the ball, in particular through the passing game. Still, would like to have seen us be able to run the ball a little bit more with our running backs. But overall, things we can take out of this game and learn from. So,
Sean, a minute or 2 left. Time out there. By doing so, you eliminate the possibility of getting a defensive stop to potentially get the ball back in time.
Yeah.
Comes down to having to get an onside kick. The success rate of those is very low. Why use that timeout?
Yeah, so I understand what you're saying, Jay. You have 2 options, basically. Neither are great, right? So when you're in that situation, holding 3 timeouts, felt like with the ball, felt like we were underneath kind of a time overall where we felt like, we could get the ball back with a legit chance to win the games with no timeouts. Having said that, we used what we thought was our best play all year, which is 1-yard quarterback sneak by Josh. Had to use a timeout. And so just felt like that was the best course of action for us right there. And neither of them are great choices, right, in that situation. So at the end of the day, we got to play better overall, so we stay out of those situations, quite frankly. And so, but we'll go back and look at it again. And just overall, again, felt like, we thought we could get it right there on the first play, didn't get it, used the timeout. And then feel like, hey, we're in a situation, if we do get the onside, which doesn't have a high percentage, I recognize that we're we have 15 yards and roughly 50 seconds, 2 timeouts to go. Feel pretty good about ourselves. But again, understand what you're saying with the onside.
So I understand the success rate on the sneak is very high, and that's the call. But if it is unsuccessful, why is Josh not maybe in the line hustling to?
Yeah, I know it's, and we talked about that as well. It's just felt like you're in a pile, number one, right? He's in the pile to unload the pile. get back on the line takes some time. So whether you're going to clock it at that point, just to get up off the pile to do all that, takes longer than you'd like in that situation. So I understand what you're saying.
From where you were on the field, did you think that maybe Josh got in on that first sneak?
I thought it was close. I really did. I thought it was close. Those scrums are hard. They're really hard, for the officials to see one way or the other, and so obviously they ruled him that he wasn't in.
Was there a point of emphasis at all on that last drive to conserve the timeout? Because you did have the 3 on that last play, and would that have then affected that play call, or should it have?
We had 3, and we were trying to conserve timeouts. We were actually in a situation that we call red alert, which says, hey, if you get in field goal range, you're down between 11 and 9 points in that situation, right? So you're in that kind of situation where you get in field goal range and you take the points, so that you can play normal defense and hold those timeouts and everything. So the thing for us was, we had we basically, I think it was the Coop DPI that got us ball at the 1 yard line, and so we were never really in a position of deficit that we would say, hey, it's 2nd and long, or let's go ahead and take the field goal here and come back and use the timeout. So we were talking about that the whole way through on that last drive, especially after that first play when we had Coop down there and they called DPI at first and they picked up the flag. So every play basically we were talking about that and saying, hey, when do we want to kick it? When do we want to kick it? We felt like getting the ball inside of a 35, 30-yard line, somewhere in there, get a good makeable field goal, conserve the timeouts, come back, play defense, try and use the timeouts in that situation.
Hey, Sean, I know there's only 6 seconds left, but on the punt,
yeah.
Why not go for punt block? Why not return it?
Yeah, punt block. We should have been that. We didn't have enough guys on the field to do that. So that's something we got to figure that out.
I'm sorry, you said only 10 on the field.
We didn't have enough guys on the field. You
said that the reason you use the timeout is because you feel like you'd have enough time to, if you get all 3 timeouts, to mount the final drive you've got to stop them. Am I understanding that?
Say that again.
So if you had not used the timeout after the sneak, the thinking is that even if you had 3 timeouts and gotten a stop following the sneak, you would not have had enough time after forcing that stop to then get a game-winning or game-tying field goal. Is that correct?
If we didn't, if you sneak it and not use the timeout, now it's getting really low. But again, we're talking about human. You unpile the pile, you come back and you try and run another sneak. You're hoping. But you just don't know how long. They got to spot the ball. People get up. Now we're talking about, razor thin here in terms of what you're able to try and get them.
The question is then, what is the amount of time then that you feel comfortable trying to mount a scoring drive with 3 timeouts? Because the minute to go when the sneak happens, I think 15, 20 seconds to unpile. You're probably looking at 40 seconds to go when the second sneak happens. You've got maybe 20 after. I guess is there a number there?
No, there's not. Yes and no, but neither of them are great options. You're splitting hairs here, trying to. Ideally, we're not in that situation. If we're in the situation, you don't have great options at your disposal, right? So there's a potential that you're able to save the timeouts and play defense, and then you're out of timeouts, and they're punting the ball back to you, and you're in a situation with no timeouts, and the ball may be pinned, So. Or, you go the route we did. So they're not great options at that point in the game. And so we'll go back and look at it again. I can promise you that.
Where did the breakdown occur on that final punt that you had?
Yeah, it just, a substitution thing on the sideline, Jay. So, that was the information I got because I was saying, count us up, going for the block here. And then something happened there in terms of the substitution.
Once you got to the 1 yard line, was there thought of throwing it, knowing that, hey, if we get tackled in bounds in any way, we're going to be in this tough situation?
Yeah, for sure. You talk about that. Again, feel pretty good about Josh getting that 1 yard, and it's not just him. It's just he's been really good at it. We've been really good at it, and so went with our best play to convert like we always do in that situation, and we just didn't get it. So, it was what it was.
What did the Rams do to keep your defense all out of sorts?
Yeah, they did a good job up front, their run game. And then they converted a lot of third downs. I think they had 15 or so third downs, and maybe 11 out of 15 converted. So I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I feel like that's about right. And we got to get off the field and get the ball back to Josh. You saw what he can do, So we got to do a better job. I thought we lost 2 of the 3 phases today.
You accepted the holding penalty as opposed to, I think it went 4th and 6.
Yeah, 4th and 6, 4th and 5.
It was very
yeah.
close, but
yeah.
why accept it?
Take them out of field goal range. Yeah, take them out of points right there. They were probably going to go for it anyway, based on the way Sean handled the next 3rd or 4th down there. So the kicker was, I think he was good from, we're looking at 39-yard line, pretty consistent in pregame. So I wanted to take him out of field goal range right there.
I know you said it was a substitution thing, but to only have 9 players on the field on that final play, how does that happen? Like, what exactly is happening on the sideline to be too short?
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to substitutions, like I've said before. So it's communication, it's understanding who's in the game, who's available. So we'll go back and figure that out.
During the week, you talked about the need to refocus coming off that big San Francisco win. You mentioned the division. Do you feel like that was an issue at all during the week and leading up to this game?
Well, I didn't feel like we came out very urgent. And, I know Josh had the roughing the passer, I think it was on our sideline. So that was a 3rd down that was initially not converted. So, I didn't feel like, I felt like we should have been or could have been. I mean, when you come out and you don't win the line of scrimmage, that's not a great way to start a game. So whether we were urgent enough or weren't urgent enough, at the end of the day, we didn't come out and win the line of scrimmage like we need to early in the game.
Sean, you talked about going for the field goal once you got inside the
I'm sorry.
You talked about going for the field goal once you got inside the 30. After that pass interference penalty on 4th down, you got to the 16. Why not the field goal then?
We felt like we were going to take shots into the end zone from there, which we did. I think it was the next play or two. We took a shot in the end zone. Again, when the way we look at it, may not be how everyone looks at it, but when you're in a healthy set of sticks, right? So you're in 1st down and you're going, hey, let's take some shots to the end zone, which we did. You don't want to necessarily kick it there until the clock. There's a kind of a line of demarcation on the game clock as well that factors in. And so we were still above that at that point where we felt like we could save those timeouts and whatnot. So and still have a chance. Again, neither option is great. But then we had the ball at the 1-yard line. So we felt like, hey, let's go with our best play right here.
Sean, we've seen the defense maybe have some struggles during the game, but mid-game adjustments have oftentimes correct those situations. Why do you feel like those maybe were not as effective today?
I feel like we did some things in the 4th where we got to stop and played a little bit better. So maybe they helped there. But overall, we got to really roll up our sleeves and look at it, Jay. And so that's where it's got to start.
Is it tough at all working Matt back in because of all the reps that you've had all season with Terrell and Dorian back there? Has it been challenging at all? Or?
No, I don't feel that. I don't feel that. I don't sense that. Naturally, when a player comes back, it's a little new from a communication standpoint. But that's no excuse for us not playing better.
Sean, what happened on their blocked punts?
Yeah, it looked like it came right over Reed up front. So that's what I saw just from the scoreboard replay, and I got to look at the film obviously to tell for sure. That's what Coach Smiley thought as well when he looked at the iPad there, the surface.
Josh kept saying post-game that he needed to make all more play, but obviously he had 6 touchdowns. Just what do you make out of his performance?
Yeah, incredible. I mean, incredible. We got to do a better job around him. Like I said, if you look at the game, it's line of scrimmage, being able to run the ball with their running backs. It's line of scrimmage on defense. It's special teams giving up big plays. When you lose 2 of the 3 and the line of scrimmage overall, it's you're making it really hard. You got to score 40-some points, and even then, you're holding your breath to win, right? So, sometimes if you look at it the right way, and you're able to make the adjustments you have to make, sometimes this can be, as hard as it is, a good reminder of what you need to do every week in this league and how we have to adjust as a football team. Next week is a challenging game as well. They're all challenging, right? Against a really good football team on the road. So, we've got to work it out for us this week.
You touched on the line of scrimmage a couple of times defensively. Ed Oliver in particular, are you getting what you need from him right now?
I hope so. I got to look at it because when you're talking about the run game, you can't. It's hard to rush the passer unless you get them out of the run game, right? And so when they're under center, run, under center boot, under center play action, it's hard to rush the passer. That's one. But the job starts with the run game. It's not Ed. It's all of us, right? It's all of us. So if you want to be a good run defense, it starts with an attitude and it starts with everyone doing their job. And so it's a collective thing. It's not just Ed. It's all of us. All right, thank you guys.
Paramount Plus is your home to stream live local NFL on CBS games every Sunday all season long, right through the AFC Championship game. So sign up and sign into Paramount Plus today. That was head coach Sean McDermott speaking to the media after their 2-point loss to the Rams. Sean McDermott said, we wanted to run the ball more. If we also want to be a defense that wants to stop the run, it starts with an attitude. He also admitted to having 9 plays on the field for that last punt play in the game when they were trying to go for punt block, but only had 9 players on the field at that point. Also alluding to the fact that the team wasn't urgent enough from the jump and wanted to see more urgency throughout the game. Steve, what did you take away from Coach McDermott's points in that press conference? Certainly,
there's a lot of focus for a lot of fans is on at the end of the game what's going on. With Josh trying to get it. They went to the best play they had, and I'm a big proponent of giving it to your best player. They ran the quarterback sneak to get in on that last play. It cost them a timeout. And that meant that if they could stop the Rams on the next series, they'd get the ball back with more time, like another 40 seconds or so of time. And in a game like this, that could mean a lot. But you give it to your best player, you run your best play with 1 yard to go, and the Rams step up and make a defensive stop.
They've been doing that all season.
So that is a little bit too much, I think, of the focus for this game, although at the end of it, it gave you one more chance, maybe, or a better chance at the end. Getting into that spot was the problem, and that started all the way back in the first half when they couldn't stay on the field offensively, had the ball for 10 minutes and 5 seconds of the first half, and the Rams had it for 29 minutes and 55 seconds, or whatever that is. 24 minutes and 55 seconds. I don't know, I'm doing the math here. But they couldn't get the ball, and it ends up they're down by 10. In a game where their offense is actually, after halftime, played pretty well. Getting into that situation was the problem tonight. And like he said, too, no pass rush because they couldn't stop the run. The Rams had their whole playbook open every single snap of this game, and they had 72 snaps in this game. They could run or pass whenever they wanted throughout this entire game. The Bills had no reason to think they were really going to pass it and no reason to think they wouldn't run it. Absolutely no way to rush the passer in those circumstances, and the reason being they couldn't stop the run when they really needed to. So a lot going on in this game, and certainly it came down where they had a chance at the end, and you get caught up in that quarterback. I don't have a problem with the quarterback sneak. It was the best play, gave them a chance. They had 3 timeouts left. Give it to your best player, let him score. They'd done it. And that ended up being 3 of 5 on the night on that play. I think they got stopped once earlier in the game as well, and then pushed it in on the next one as well, and which is what they did in this game. So, So it would give you an extra play clock, an extra 30 seconds or so of play clock, maybe 35 seconds of play clock. If they could have gotten in on that play, stopped the clock with a touchdown, and then used the 3 timeouts, they would have had 1 extra. The Rams got the ball back with 59 seconds left, and the length of the time that the plays they ran took was the difference between the 40-second clock and the 59 second. That 19 seconds in there was the 3 plays that they ran, or the 2 plays that they ran that caused the Bills to use up their final 2 timeouts. So the Bills blew that one stretch right there because they couldn't get that quarterback sneak in. I don't have a problem with that. I applaud a coach who coaches his players like he trusts them. They knew, the players knew they had to get that play in, 3 timeouts or not. They did. They got the points. They got to a 2-point game, and then with the punt at the end of the game, with only 9 guys on the field, Yeah, the special teams did not have a good day today.
Yeah. They also had that punt that was blocked, returned for a touchdown. So that area of the game will definitely go back to the drawing board and figure out how can we be stronger for a big game coming up against the Detroit Lions. And not just the special teams, it's the entire team. Coach McDermott said we did things in the fourth quarter that were better on defense than the rest of the game, but we have to roll up our sleeves, go back to the drawing board and figure out how to make it work, how to come out with more urgency next week against a Lions team who's 12-1. The Bills will be preparing all week for that game because that team is just so good, like I said, on both sides of the football. We're going to close it up here, so we want to thank you for tuning into Bills Postgame Live presented by Paramount Plus. For Steve Tasker, I'm Maddy Glab. We'll see you next week after the Detroit Lions game.